It started with the little things, the kind that don't seem like anything until they add up into something too heavy to carry. We'd been married for 8 years, Carla and me. 8 years of stability, of predictability, of routines that never changed and rarely needed discussion. I loved that about us. I thought she did too. She worked as a nurse at a local women's health clinic, and I, Ben, managed a family-owned furniture store downtown. Our schedules didn't always line up perfectly, but we made it work. Monday nights were our us nights, takeout sushi, reruns of whatever sitcom we were binging, and sometimes, if we weren't too tired, a little more. Lately, though, Carla had seemed distracted. Not distant exactly, but off in a way I couldn't explain. She was still affectionate, still kissed me goodbye every morning, but her eyes didn't linger anymore. Her laughter felt a beat delayed. I chalked it up to stress. The clinic was always busy, and she mentioned they had a new doctor, someone she described as unusually charming, for a gynecologist. That should have been my first red flag. I remember the first time I met Dr. Evan Hart. It was purely by accident. I'd stopped by the clinic one afternoon to bring Carla lunch, and he happened to be at the front desk, chatting with the receptionist. Tall, well-groomed, with the kind of easy confidence that made men feel inferior and women sit up straighter. He had this habit of leaning in just a bit too close when he talked, like the world wasn't quite interesting unless it revolved around him. "Ah, so you're the famous husband," he said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. I didn't like how he said that, like I was a character in someone else's story. That night, Carla joked about my sudden alpha dog energy. She laughed, pressed her body against mine like she used to, and told me not to be ridiculous. "He's just a doctor, Ben. He's charming because he has to be. It's bedside manner, not flirting." But something had shifted. I could feel it, like a wall had gone up between us, invisible but undeniable. A few weeks later, Carla started picking up extra shifts. She said they were short-staffed, that the clinic had extended hours now. I didn't argue. I trusted her. But trust doesn't silence that gut feeling when your wife starts wearing lipstick just to go to work. Then came the missed calls. The late-night texts she shielded from view. Her phone that used to sit face up now spent its days in her purse or flipped over on the counter. And always, the smell of her when she came home. Not perfume, not even another man exactly, but the kind of clean, sterile scent that didn't match a long shift in a chaotic clinic. The moment that cracked it all open came on a Thursday. She had called in sick that morning, said she was staying in bed all day. I stopped by during lunch, brought her soup from her favorite deli. But she wasn't home. The bed was made, the house quiet. I called her. No answer. I waited. Still nothing. Out of some mixture of panic and curiosity, I drove to the clinic. I didn't go inside, just parked across the street. 5 minutes later, I saw her. She walked out with Dr. Hart, laughing. Her hand touched his arm, and he didn't move away. They stood too close, eyes locked, and then he leaned in and kissed her. Soft. Familiar. Like it wasn't the first time. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. Instead, I lay next to her in bed, listening to her soft breathing, wondering how long it had been a lie. Wondering if she ever felt guilty, or if maybe I had already become a memory to her. That night, I didn't sleep. Carla curled up beside me, as if nothing had changed, her hand occasionally brushing mine in the dark. I kept staring at the ceiling, memorizing every little crack and bump, wondering how long she'd been slipping away. Wondering if I'd been blind, or just willfully ignorant. I spent the next few days floating through life in a strange fog. I couldn't confront her, not yet. I needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal. So I did something I never thought I'd do, I followed her. It was a Wednesday when I watched her leave the house in scrubs, supposedly heading in for an early shift. I followed at a distance, expecting her to pull into the clinic parking lot. Instead, she drove past it, took a turn through a residential area, and eventually pulled up to a small, gated building that didn't look like much. I parked half a block away and waited. She was in there for 3 hours. Later, I found out it was Dr. Hart's private practice, something he ran on the side for discreet clients, according to the reviews I found online. My stomach twisted. I wasn't angry. Not then. Not yet. I was devastated. That night, I asked her how her shift went. She said it was busy, lots of walk-ins. I just nodded. You must be exhausted, I said. She gave me that soft, slightly sad smile, the one that used to melt me. You have no idea, she whispered. I spent the weekend combing through old photos, videos, even receipts, anything that would give me a timeline. When had it started? How long had I been sleeping beside someone who was in love with another man? The confrontation came not with shouting, not with drama. It came with calm, cold honesty. Carla, I said one Sunday morning over coffee. How long have you been sleeping with him? Her hand froze mid-sip. Her eyes didn't widen in surprise, just a slow, sorrowful blink. That was all the confirmation I needed. She didn't deny it. I never meant for it to happen, she said. He was just there. And I was lonely. You were always working, and I felt invisible. Invisible? I asked, bitterness creeping into my voice. I gave you everything. My time, my trust, my love. I know, she whispered. That's what makes this worse. I stood, walked to the window, watching a neighbor wash his car like nothing in the world was wrong. Was it ever about him? Or was it about how he made you feel? She didn't answer. We talked for hours. Well, she talked, and I listened. She spoke about how Evan made her feel seen, how he admired her ambition, her strength. How he challenged her in ways I never had. She admitted she thought it would be just once, that she'd get it out of her system. But it hadn't been once. It had been months. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things or storm out. Instead, I wrote her a letter that night, handwritten, 5 pages long. I told her how much I loved her, how much I had lost in that love, and how deeply I had tried to build a life with her. I told her I would never hate her, but I couldn't stay married to someone who saw me as a shadow of a man. I moved out the following week. Divorce papers were filed 2 months later. There was no dramatic courtroom battle, no custody fights, no children. Just paperwork, division of assets, and an ache in my chest that lingered for far too long. I hear she's still seeing him. Maybe she's happy now. Maybe not. As for me, I'm still putting myself back together. I go to the gym again. I took a road trip across the Pacific Northwest, something I'd always talked about but never made time for. I'm not over it. But I'm not broken anymore either. I've come to accept that love doesn't always end in fire. Sometimes, it just drifts quietly into someone else's waiting room.